A very good evening and a warm welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Each and every week, I have the pleasure of having a meaningful conversation and breaking bread virtually with authors, speakers, C suite professionals, and entrepreneurs. And today is no exception. It gives me great pleasure to warmly welcome Gauri, PwC, Roundtable, Think Kitchen Magazine, podcaster, TEDx speaker, Iktara, a career from professional career to entrepreneurship, an influencer in the top 50 GQ magazine. Please join me in warmly welcoming Gauri. Welcome, Gauri.
Hi, Gautam. Thank you for having me.
An absolute pleasure to be with us today. I've been following you on social media, and I must say, I'm really inspired by your journey of transformation, and looking forward to our conversation today.
Same here.
Fantastic. So, one question I love to ask all my guests, because there's always something that drives each one of us each and every day. Because as we know, as entrepreneurs, we go through highs and lows in every journey of life. And, there's always some kind of purpose and why. So I'd love to know, Gauri, what's your personal why and purpose?
Wow. I think, honestly, it's just the love of food. It's really as simple as that. And especially given my background, which is completely not from hospitality, everyone thought we were mad to get into this industry, not knowing anything about it. But my husband and I, when I say we, I'm referring to my husband and I, who's a co-founder in our company. We both just love eating. It's what drives our travel. It really dictates a lot of our life, and it has for the last 13 years that we've been together. And when we happened to move back to Bombay, we felt a big gap in what was available, say, 13 years ago. And I think, putting all the madness aside, it was this crazy love of food and wanting to kind of, share that love with the city that really drove us to doing what we did. And I think that still holds true today.
Fantastic. I think the greatest pleasure in life is to be able to have something you're deeply passionate about be your business. So it's fantastic to know that your love of food was sort of one of the key areas being instrumental to being in the business that you're in today. So thanks for sharing that, Gauri. You touched upon, obviously you were with PwC in the early part of your career and now into entrepreneurship. There are a lot of professionals out there working for organizations. They've thought of entrepreneurship, and obviously there's some self-limiting beliefs. There could be fear factor, there's insecurity. What can you share from your journey of how you took this bold step from, having a professional career to becoming an entrepreneur?
Yeah, it like I said, it was a big dose of madness along with everything else. I think I read law at university, and then I went on to become a chartered accountant, qualified as a chartered accountant in England, where I worked with PwC for 5 years. Had enough of the bad English weather and decided to move back to Bombay. It was actually, my equally crazy husband's idea to venture into hospitality. He's a techie, not from, this background either. And so it was literally like the blind leading the lame, honestly. But I kind of, my involvement started very superficially with just helping on financial and legal aspects, which was my background. But I just found myself being more and more drawn into it. And then I decided that, hey, I've spent 9 years, as a tax consultant, as a CA, and, taking a year off, what have I got to lose, right?
Right.
I was quite confident that I'd be able to come back to what I was doing if things didn't work out. And so for me, it started off with just the idea of taking a 1-year sabbatical. And of course, that's ended up in an 11-year sabbatical. But that's kind of, how I hedged my bets with venturing into this. And I also feel like the other thing that drove me was, I think I was at that point in my career where I needed a challenge that excited me. I kind of got quite comfortable where I was, and of course I was on a great career track with that job as well. And I love doing that. But if I was completely honest, I know that I was quite in a comfort zone, and I think I had this like craving to learn something new. And so that coupled with the fact that there was another crazy person who also wanted to do this, it worked out. And yeah, and I've loved every minute of it, because I'm still to date learning new things every day, and I think that's what also keeps me going.
Thanks so much for sharing, Gauri. I mean, what I take away from what you shared is that, whilst it was a successful career path of those 9 years you mentioned, you were sort of looking for some new challenges because you wanted to sort of get out of that sort of comfort zone, to some extent monotony perhaps, but really to take on a new challenge. And the great thing of having an accountability partner with this, so you knew you were not alone. So, and most importantly, I think I really like the idea of taking a 1 year sabbatical, because at the end of the day, you take that 1 year, it's like pressing pause on what you're currently doing, giving a chance to sort of reflect, review, and explore. And for any reason, if the end of that year did not materialize, then you knew that you could go back to your default of that career path, but you would have had some renewed energy because you'd have taken a break from that. So I think
And a
that's
lot of
really
people, I feel like, want to kind of, explore entrepreneurship. And
yes,
so, sometimes it's about getting it out of your system as well, even if things don't
absolutely
work out the way you expected. But it's good to do that, so you're not always wondering what it would be like.
right.
So,
Right. Yeah, I have two very dear friends of mine in Dubai who took the plunge, and they went back to the professional path after a year, but they at least said we removed that guilt or fear factor, that we did it, we realized that's not for us, and now
yeah,
we at least removed that factor of thinking about all the time that that what if was removed,
no
and that
regret. Yeah.
no regrets, and you had a renewed energy with your professional career, and you said, how can I now expand in
Yeah.
this space which resonates with my personality, my comfort levels, etc. So no, thanks for sharing that, Gauri. I mean, one thing that's really come up with every entrepreneur that I've spoken to is the importance of building our personal brand. And, in this virtual world we're living in, obviously we're on LinkedIn primarily today. LinkedIn is a phenomenal platform. We have our dear mutual friend Shivani also with us. And I know she works very closely with entrepreneurs in India, helping them build their personal brand. How important is building your personal brand as an entrepreneur, and what's been your experience in recent years?
So I think, honestly, I mean, it's something that I didn't think about consciously when it sort of started happening very organically. But as the face of the business, it sort of happened quite organically, where I was kind of being I was not just representing the brand, but also what we stood for, a certain value system. Of course, being a woman entrepreneur, all these things which were going beyond just the F&B space, right? So I think
Right.
it just kind of happened a little organically, and then I've been in this business now over 10 years, and there's so much that I've learned, Gautam, as a businesswoman, not just as a restaurateur. And I really feel like I want to sort of share that with a wider audience. There's only so much you can keep talking about your brands directly, right, as a spokesperson. But I think building this personal brand is, I'm invariably going to have the opportunity, like today, to talk about these brands and what we've learned. And I really feel like, if I had listened more 10 years ago to other people, or more people were sharing their stories, I think it would have been maybe a slightly easier journey. But it's just important to, I think, constantly share our learnings. And the other thing is, I've actually met so many amazing people along the way, and had incredible conversations with people, and that's kind of what gave rise to my podcast last year, in the middle of a pandemic, called "This Round Is on Me." And again, it was about sort of drawing from other people's experiences, and but then also sharing what I'd been through in a similar space, because you realize that so many people are going through similar things, even though they're in different industries.
Right.
I think that, the joy of doing and having these conversations, of sharing this knowledge, kind of just gave rise to this personal brand, which kind of happened inadvertently from doing all of these activities. But I do feel that it's important because, people should know they should be able to sort of recognize you and then be able to reach out to you. I mean, it's not just
Right.
about getting famous and then that's where it ends, right? So,
Absolutely.
yeah.
No, that's great. I really appreciate those insights that you're sharing. And, it's when we share our stories, our journeys through these podcasts, we're adding value, we're sharing our learnings, which is invaluable to the audiences, because otherwise they only see what they see. And,
Exactly.
you're the face of the company, you're the personal brand which represent your organization. And people connect with people. People buy from people. People connect with people. So that's really something which is really absolutely key.
Yeah, I
So, I
think,
mean,
it's exactly what you're saying, right? It's also about building trust, right?
yes.
It's not just this product, this sort of vague sort of product that's out there. I think having a personal brand attached to it, reinforces the sort of integrity of the brand, and it just makes people connect with not just you but the brand as well and what you stand for, and yeah, and I think that's really important today.
Yeah, and it's all relational. So as you said, trust. From trust, you build rapport. You build rapport. There's a relation being built, and I was really excited. For your venture called The Table, being ranked the number 4 best restaurant in India. I mean, really, that's really something to congratulate you on achieving such a great acknowledgement. There are people in the industry for many many years prior to you and your husband joining this industry, and to have achieved that speaks leaps and bounds of the credibility, and more important, the value and the experience that you all are providing. I'm new to India in that sense, so I've not yet visited your restaurant, but it's certainly on my bucket list, and I look forward to enjoying the cuisine and the experience. But love to hear some insights on The Table.
So, thank you, first of all. That's really kind of you. And I'm very much looking forward to having you at the restaurant and meeting in person. It goes back to that first question of yours in terms of the purpose and the why. And I really believe that our love of food, we did manage to kind of the love of dining. It's not just food, because it's about an experience, it's the space, it's the food and beverage program, it's the hospitality, it's all of that together. And I really feel that we managed to sort of put forward that love of food and share that with a wider audience. And I think it's come through most sort of importantly in The Table, which was our first project. And yeah, and I mean, a restaurant, as I realized, having now done it, is one of the hardest industries to be successful in. And it has like I think a 90% failure rate, if I'm not wrong.
Wow.
So yeah, it's really and I think that doing something with the sincerity and integrity and passion that we did, there was literally no holds barred, Gautam. Like we even like changed our architect 4 months into doing the project, because we were just not feeling, it just wasn't feeling right. And that's the craziest thing to do, right? Because you're paying rent, you got everything you've spent 4 months doing, and you start from scratch again. And but for both Jay and me, it was just so important that we were 100% happy with everything we were doing. And I think it was the best decision. It was the most expensive decision to do that, but it was the best decision we did, because that space to me is timeless, and it has withstood the test of time, as far as I'm concerned. So I think sometimes just making those hard decisions because you really believe in what you're doing, and sort of leaving the business sense aside for a second, can actually sort of hold you in good stead in the long run.
Fantastic, fantastic. No, thanks for sharing, Gauri. It reminded me of a book once which I read called The Fish Philosophy, which is work made fun gets done. I mean,
Yeah.
we go through so much. You got to be in absolute love with what you do, take those decisions, and there's some really tough decisions you make. But your passion, your drive to make this dream reality and make a difference in the experience that your consumers have is testimony of your passion and commitment to the industry. So that's absolutely fantastic. So in today's times, technology has been omnipresent for all of us, and the F&B industry, which is very much one where you are physically at locations, experiencing the cuisines. I'd love to learn how you, as an entrepreneur, have embraced technology, especially in the last 12 to 18 months.
I mean, I'm the biggest techno twit around, and I think that as in hospitality, the last thing you're thinking about is technology, because it means you just want to go and enjoy a meal somewhere. You don't want gadgets around, and you want it to be about sort of human interaction and great food, right? So you kind of like don't. Technology is not the first thing that comes to mind when you think of restaurants. But the
Right.
last year and a half or so, with the complete sort of change of circumstances that we find ourselves in, we really had to kind of think on our toes, and think on our feet, and we launched multiple delivery brands in the last sort of 18 months. And delivery is such a different beast from dining in a restaurant. It's so technology driven. It's basically you exist only in the digital space.
Right.
And so that was a big learning curve for me, and we really had to kind of step up our game in terms of the convenience factor, being the user experience, the user interaction, and we weren't, to be honest, we weren't prepared for it. It was like this. The growth for us has happened at such an accelerated pace, and we're continuing to learn, and we still have a long way to go. I mean, just for example, we have a bakery brand called Max Street Bread Co. And bread is a staple, and it's a very different brand for us from the rest of our delivery and restaurant brands, which are about hot food and prepared food.
Right.
So this is a bakery, and it's something that, and so we think about it very differently. And today we're even thinking about launching an app, which hopefully will be able to allow people to subscribe and have a bread subscription program, and sort of ensure that they. So for me, like I'm now currently learning all about apps, and and it's really interesting, but it feels very different from the hospitality business. So yeah, but it's really important to kind of keep up, otherwise you'll be left behind.
No, fantastic. I can really resonate with what you're sharing. I mean, we have to either embrace technology or we'll be left behind as entrepreneurs. There's no point questioning it why. It is
Exactly.
something that is omnipresent, and the younger generation coming up now, they're our consumers, and we need to communicate with them in a manner which resonates with them. If we're not going to be old school, then we disengage. If we're not engaging our consumers, then we're losing our consumers, and our businesses will definitely be affected. So I think we need to embrace it and enjoy it, which is
Absolutely.
it's work in progress, but absolutely. Thanks for sharing that, Gauri. I'd like to take a moment to just acknowledge some of our viewers. We have Shivani, super excited for the conversation. Someone from Italy, Simone. From
Wow.
Dubai, Dr. Shambhavi, hello from Dubai. Happy to be here. She's congratulating you on being number 4 best restaurant in India. We have a thought leader with us, personal branding expert Tanvi. But what a lovely reminder by Gauri: build trust first. This is the most profound element of a beloved personal brand. And then we have Chatali, bread subscription program, unique and exciting. So there's some encouragement and excitement about that initiative that you just shared, Gauri. So thank you. One thing I'm really, really intrigued about is, we've gone through a global health crisis, but, Iktara, the delivery kitchen business model of yours, has not just talked about survive, but it's actually thrived in this pandemic. And I'd love to hear your insights a little bit more about Iktara and how that business is evolving.
So, Gautam, we launched Iktara, which is our Indian menu, shortly before the lockdown, and we at that point had no sort of idea that we were going to go into lockdown. And I think that the one good thing that came out of a situation like the pandemic was that it accelerated the awareness about our brand, our delivery brands, like tenfold. So I think something that may have taken us a lot longer to, build awareness about,
Absolutely.
happened so rapidly in because of the lockdown. And the other thing that really helped us was that we were very quick on our feet to to get up
Adapt.
again, to stand up again once lockdown happened. So I think all our businesses were closed sort of mid-March, and by the end of March, we were up and running again for our bakery and Iktara, and we were one of the first brands to do that. Sort of by the grace of God, we were able to get up and running, and that really held us in good stead because there wasn't much available, and by then I think people were already a bit tired of cooking at home and
Right.
looking for a bit of change. So yeah, it
Absolutely.
actually just worked out in our favor, and then yeah, by then slowly, like April, May, June onwards, we got all the rest of our brands up and running as well. So by June we had five brands. Sorry, we had four brands, delivering, and then by December we launched our pizza brand, which was again a new um, something new that we launched during the pandemic. Again, a delivery only brand called Mag Street Toppings, and so all of these, that's probably like the biggest boon of the pandemic. If there were, if I had to think of one. Of course, we've also sort of suffered a lot as an industry and continue to do so. But I think the best thing that we were able to do, and whether this happened kind of coincidentally or not, but it did happen for us, was that we were able to hedge our restaurant business with the delivery business. So every time restaurants were shut down during a lockdown, we had delivery going for us, and vice versa, right? So I think that was one of my biggest learnings during lockdown, is that, of course, sustaining the quality of the food and the delivery experience was of paramount importance, but also, realizing that we had to kind of, pivot and hedge our business as best we could was so integral to our survival.
Fantastic. No, I can resonate with that. And what I loved hearing from you is that, at the end of the day, the lockdown was a lockdown. We had to sort of accept what we can't change. And you say, okay, what are our assets? I mean, we have a kitchen space, multiple kitchen spaces, and there is an aspiration for people to have a different cuisine beyond the home food, which we've been having a majority of the last year and a bit with the lockdown. And you said the other opportune thing is that the overheads, there were a lot less overheads in terms of taking up more and more spaces, I guess, because it was more digital and it was a delivery sort of arm that you would have. What about the safety protocols in terms of COVID? How is that sort of managed to give the assurance and peace of
You
mind to
know,
customers?
I mean, that's a great question. And honestly, right in the beginning, and that was a factor of us having very little manpower on the ground, because we'd actually sent a lot of our team back home when we closed our restaurants. So in when we decided to, start up again, I was actually going into the kitchen every day myself. And, and I think that, of course, I was sharing images and videos on my Instagram, etc. And I think that again, it comes back to that element of trust, right? So everyone could say that they were doing certain protocols and following certain protocols and doing various things, but I think the fact that I was physically there myself, I wouldn't have kind of been comfortable doing that if we weren't actually genuinely following that. And two of our brands, which are Iktara and the bakery Mac Street Bread Co., they are housed in Magazine Street Kitchen, and we actually and the kitchen has been around for it had been around for 5 years at the time of the lockdown. And so a lot of people in Bombay were already familiar with the space. They'd been to the space because we used to host a lot of events there. So we actually talked a lot about how we converted the dining room in that kitchen into a dormitory for our staff, and we basically made sure everyone was staying on the premises, and so there wasn't this movement, going in and out of the kitchen, at the peak of the lockdown. And so,
Right.
I think talking about all these things, just being as honest as possible and
Honest,
genuinely
transparent
sharing.
about it. Yeah.
Yeah, and just I think it's really about, it was just really about being open and transparent about the measures we were taking, and people really appreciated that. So yeah.
Fantastic, fantastic. So, I mean, we've touched upon the opportunities and the sort of learnings from a business standpoint, but I'd love to hear from you on a personal standpoint. For you individually, what opportunity and learning has the work from home presented for you in the last 12 to 18 months?
So our business is one where it's very difficult, honestly, to work from home. A restaurant can't be operated remotely, and our delivery kitchens obviously depend on our kitchen team and our sort of operations team being on the ground. So there's very little scope to work from home. But having said that, I am at home. I'm actually on our farm in Alibag. So we have a farm in Alibag where we grow produce for the restaurant, actually, and I happen to be there right now. But it's even for the few people who potentially, the back office people who could have worked from home, we actually asked them to come in, as soon as they were capable of doing so, because I come back to this point of authenticity and trust. For example, social media, right? You would think that, oh, I can just, do that remotely. I don't need to sort of, physically be there. And actually, I don't think that's true. I mean, we're one organization that's never outsourced our social media. We've always done it in-house, and we've always just shared it with all the sort of genuineness and openness that we could possibly do. And that can only happen when you're on the ground and you're part of the team. You know what's happening. You feel the excitement. You feel the fear. You feel the So for really, honestly, work from home just isn't really possible in our business, and I love working in person with my team. So we've basically got everyone back together as quickly as we could and got back up and running. But I just want to add to that, actually. The one thing that it did give us opportunities was everybody else working from home. So maybe not my team, but everybody else who was at home, we were like, please order in. And, we created a lot of dining sort of programs around the fact that people were working from home. So for example, we had this program called Lunch Matters, where we realized that a lot of people who are working from home, you don't have time to make your lunch. You kind of you're sort of so busy with everything you're doing, or you'll whip up something that's not appetizing, maybe. And so we created a sort of almost like a dabba service.
Fine dining in-house experience. But
yeah, fine dining dabba experience. But so it was that, actually, which I think worked for us, was just recognizing that people are online a lot more, and they're at home a lot more as well. So yeah.
Well, what you shared really triggers to me. At the end of the day, actually, potentially the market grew a lot larger, because one thing you knew is, everyone is at home. I mean, there's no one traveling, people coming and going. There's no option to go out physically to a restaurant, and everyone's at home. And then you also are aware that there's a lockdown in the sense that people were only eating home food. So knowing these parameters, you said, what can we do differently? What can we do unique? What can we innovate? What can we create? Because everyone will then emotionally connect with that experience, because people are looking for an experience. I mean, experiences connect with people's emotions. And when you connect with people's emotions, then they're engaged, and then they want to experience that, and then word of mouth, and et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, no, and one thing I want to add that was really interesting, and it's something that we probably known all along, but we actually kind of put it into play during the lockdown, was that, you think, oh, you've got a restaurant, and this is what the whole world thinks, right? They're like, okay, you've got a restaurant, so if you can't do dine-in because of whatever lockdown restrictions, just do delivery. And it doesn't quite work like that, because
Right.
for example, in the case of the table, what we do as a restaurant is designed for you to enjoy in the restaurant. It was not designed as a delivery menu, So
Right.
firstly, there's of course how food travels, but then there's also the aspect that when you're sitting at home, you're not looking for some like fancy plated like seafood dish, for example. You want comfort food, right? You're in your
Right.
pajamas, you're probably like Netflixing or something, and you just want like
Correct.
good old hearty comfort food, right?
Yes.
So the whole
Yes.
thought process behind delivery is so different from dining in. And people just like don't realize that, and they just think, well, okay, you're doing you've got a restaurant, just do the delivery instead of yeah. So it's been a incredible year of learning, and learning the hard way, but learning all the same.
Fantastic, fantastic. Thanks, Gauri. It's actually really, I really enjoyed listening to some of your insights and experiences, and it's been an absolute pleasure. As we come to the close of our time together, as you know, I had released this book, Breaking Bread, and would love to know, what does breaking bread mean to you?
Well, no pun intended, but it's very apt, of course, for
Yes.
for me. And we have this thing called the community table at the table, and it's where sort of anyone and everyone can sit. You can enjoy a meal among strangers, and that's really what it is for me. Like I mentioned earlier, I've met so many amazing, interesting people just sitting at that community table where they may not know that it's our restaurant, but you just get talking, and to me that's what breaking bread is. It's really having these meaningful conversations with interesting people over a great meal, and a delicious glass of wine, and that's what that's something that I've made some amazing friends just sitting and chatting with them at the restaurant, and they've become sort of dear friends from there, and I think that's what breaking bread to me is.
Fantastic, Gauri. That is very much aligned to what I share in my book, because to me, the greatest of relationships, be it at home or be it at restaurants like yours, you have a meaningful conversation. There's an energy exchange between two or more people. Food is an energy exchange that takes place, and it's a very personal space. Even if it's in a restaurant or it's at home, it's a personal space. There's an energy exchange and there's a conversation, an emotional connect, and relationships are built from these meals. So I'm really glad to have heard what you shared from your experience at the table as well. Excellent. Before we wrap up, Gauri, any closing comments, anything you'd like to share with the audiences today?
No, nothing. I mean, thank you, first of all, for tuning in. And, just basically, it's, business is one of those things where it's full of ups and downs, sometimes more downs than ups. So just make sure it's something that you love doing, because that's what's going to get you through, every day. So, yeah, that's probably the only thing I'd like to leave everyone with.
Thank you so much, Gauri. It's been an absolute pleasure to break bread with you virtually and have this meaningful conversation. And I'm really inspired by your journey, and my best wishes and blessings for your continued success and growth.
Thank you so much. And hopefully we'll get to break bread over a real meal very soon.
Absolutely. Have a good evening and God bless. Thank you.